I guess, yeah, I didn't know enough before coming here. And now I've learned a lot more about what I've learned since I've been here. I'm kind of just overwhelmed right now. I think especially because what's happened 20 years ago is happening today again in Syria, in Palestine, on the shores of Europe. It's the world watching and waiting again. So I guess I'm kind of left with an individual feeling of powerlessness, of what can you do? And I guess the only thing you can do is learn and know and communicate to others so that they recognize the repetition of, I guess, ignorance and also lack of action. And I guess the fact that it can happen anywhere to anyone. And I'm actually quite concerned because I feel these sentiments are kind of rising in Western Europe as well, with the divisions already starting. So you just think, actually the warning signs that were talked about here, I recognize them in Western Europe with the far-right politicians coming up. And so it's left me quite, I guess, alert, even more alert and alarmed. What can I do when I come to the UK? I actually work for a Muslim Jewish theatre company. So we plan to make a piece about this and about to kind of address the topic of Srebrenica and I guess the silence of the world then, and also link it to the silence of the world now. So we want to make a piece of theatre to communicate it, and ticket sales will go to fundraising for the Remembering Srebrenica charity, which will then go back into the charity. So hopefully more people can come and learn about it.
I remember when the war happened and the genocide happened, I was very young. I was about 10 to 11. I don't recall me watching the news or keeping up to date with the genocide. But I remember my reaction to my father. He was very much up to date. He was very angry about what was happening. He felt extremely hopeless. And he died in 2003, and I hope me coming here today gives him some sort of reassuring that I'm doing something about it, that he left something with me to be inspired about, to make a difference and to make a change. Today it's been 3 days so far, learning about what happened, exploring, learning lessons, and pledging to take an action once we go back home to UK. We've met the mothers who lost their dear one, who lost their husband, their sons, and we've witnessed their bravery, how composed they are, how they want us to take the message on and to raise awareness and to never forget. And it's extremely amazing to reflect upon their understanding and their willingness to forgive, but they won't forget, because something like this should not be forgotten. And they really, I like the analogy they've used in comparison, that the world, even though they failed Bosnia, we're still failing other countries like Syria, like Iraq, like Afghanistan. And what they've taught to us today, that nothing much have been actually taken, and they hope that they have hope that our young generation will be the key change makers, and that we'll be able to lobby our government, our politician, to make change. I'm a poet, so I hope that I've been inspired by this experience, and that once I go to UK, I like to write, I like to blog about my experience here, and if words can inspire people to make a change, that I hope that would be myself to do that. Thank you.
My knowledge of the Bosnian situation is quite vivid. I was at university at the time, and I remember actually a school friend of mine who wasn't at the same university, but we heard about his father being killed. He was Serbian, and he got shot dead by a Croat. Now, to think back then that would have been tragic for him. We would have all grown up together at school. There was no hatred between ourselves. And to think what he would have experienced, obviously it was a three-way situation with the Muslims as well in terms of Bosnia. It was shocking, really shocking how people who once upon a time were neighbours next door to one another could turn on one another. And that really is scary. It's modern day history. It's not something we can date back to almost caveman style situation where, you know, people didn't understand and respect. This was civilized Europe which is on our doorstep. And I think for that reason, 20 years on, it's a case of everything we can do, obviously we will do in our ability and power to be able to do, to raise awareness and to learn the lessons. I'm currently at the delegation, the Emerald Network delegation. Here we are. And I think second time around for myself, it's still very, very emotional. I mean, we've been seeing all aspects. So, for example, to see the appliance of science, the DNA aspects of tracing missing persons and trying to identify the bodies, so families, the victims who are survivors, can get closure in terms of an element of peace of mind, which is incredibly difficult for us to comprehend. Today we just met the mothers and there were tears all the way around in terms of the room, basically incredibly emotional for their resilience to be able to retell the story with an intention then to affect future communities. Going forward, I myself, as Emerald Network, would want to do everything we can in our ability, so to coordinate individuals, to host events, fundraise, to raise awareness. And the raising awareness is the intention to say rewind, retell and reflect really on the lessons and what we can do in future to have the human angle, so putting faith and flag aside, no division, no nationalism, no hatred for one another based on faith. And the intention is basically for future generations to learn from the past and for never to forget and never to repeat.